Introduction. The shock of reality and the magnetic pull of and impulsive mistake. Imagine the absolute stillness of a Sunday morning, shattered only by the relentless, agonizing throb in your temples. You blink against the harsh, unforgiving sunlight slicing through your bedroom blinds. Last night is a graveyard of fractured memories, merely echoes of meaningless laughter, the heavy scent of alcohol, and a creeping, primal dread slowly settling at the base of your spine. Driven by pure modern instinct, your trembling hand blindly searches for your phone on the nightstand. The screen flickers to life. In a fraction of a second, the blood in your veins turns to ice. Your stomach plummets into an endless abyss, and a cold sweat breaks out across your skin despite the warmth of the room. There it is, glowing mockingly in a chat window belonging to a name you barely dare to whisper in the fluorescent-lit hallways of your corporate office. A message, successfully delivered at 2:14 a.m., reads, "You up?" 3 simple letters. 1 question mark. It is brief, yet it carries the devastating blast radius of a nuclear bomb dropped squarely on your dignity and the career you have bled to build. In our modern digital lexicon, "you up" is never just a polite wellness check. It is a shadowy invitation, an alcohol-fueled impulse, a reckless obliteration of every professional boundary. And the terrifying twist that makes you want the earth to open up and swallow you whole is that the recipient is not a ghost from a dating app or a lingering ex-lover. It is your ultimate superior. It is the cold, untouchable billionaire CEO who holds the power of life and death over your livelihood, a man whose eyes you actively avoid even in the suffocating silence of the company elevator. This is the ultimate, paralyzing shock of reality, a nightmare scenario that leaves you breathless with panic. Billionaire Bliss Audio warmly welcomes you to our journey today. If this terrifying yet intoxicating scenario has already hooked your mind and left you wanting more, please take a brief moment to subscribe to our channel. Your support is the driving force that allows us to keep unraveling these profound psychological mysteries in our future videos. Now, I often ask myself why this absolute peak of professional humiliation is currently manipulating the minds of millions. Look at the unprecedented explosion of vertical microdrama platforms like ReelShort or DramaBox. Thousands of bite-sized videos centered entirely around this specific trope are ruthlessly dominating algorithms across TikTok, Facebook Reels, and YouTube Shorts. Why does a storyline so seemingly cliché and deeply unrealistic possess the invisible power to manipulate our behavior? It forces viewers not only to linger until the final frame, but also to mindlessly click download links, eagerly parting with their hard-earned money to witness a conclusion they already know. The truth I have come to realize is that beneath these cheap, fleeting frames lies an incredibly complex psychological manipulation system. That agonizingly humiliating scene of a late-night text is not just a ridiculous mistake. It is a gateway into a profound study of behavioral psychology, our desperate need to escape reality, and the darkest, most vulnerable corners of a modern adult's craving to be wildly desired precisely when they are at their absolute worst. To understand this primal craving, we must first dissect the sheer magnetism of our own engineered self-destruction and the asymmetrical power dynamics it shatters. The anatomy of vulnerability and the allure of the asymmetrical power dynamic. We spend our entire adult lives meticulously constructing an armor of professional competence, terrified that one wrong move will expose us as the imposters we secretly believe ourselves to be. Every polite email, every calculated nod in a board meeting, and every muted outfit is a brick in this defensive wall. Yet, there is a suffocating weight to this constant performance, a deeply human urge to tear down the very facade we have bled to build. The drunken late-night text to the billionaire CEO is the ultimate psychological release valve. It is an act of subconscious rebellion against the sterile, heavily policed environment of the modern workplace. By making a spectacular, undeniable fool of yourself, you are stripped of your professional armor, left standing entirely naked in your messy, chaotic humanity. And here lies the intoxicating core of the fantasy, the belief that your absolute worst, most vulnerable self is exactly what is required to thaw the ice around the untouchable elite. In reality, A man with unparalleled wealth and unchecked power is a terrifying prospect, a predator in a bespoke suit who views you as disposable human capital. But the microdrama narrative flips this terrifying dynamic on its head. It promises us that beneath the CEO's ruthless exterior beats a heart that is desperately starved for the one thing his billions cannot buy: authenticity. When you accidentally send that mortifying "you up" text, you are not just breaking a corporate rule. You are breaching a psychological fortress. You force the godlike figure to descend from his penthouse Olympus and engage with your flawed, earthly reality. The stark asymmetry of power, his billions against your overdraft fees, his corner office against your cubicle, creates a devastating tension. We are captivated because the narrative assures us that our flaws are our greatest assets. We do not have to be perfect, wealthy, or flawlessly poised to win the ultimate prize. We just have to be real. This fantasy whispers a comforting lie into our ears, telling us that our chaotic, unpolished authenticity is a superpower capable of bringing the titans of industry to their knees. It taps into our deepest childhood yearning to be seen, accepted, and wildly desired, not when we are at our best, but precisely when we have made the biggest mess of our lives. This desperate yearning to be rescued from our own chaos naturally bleeds into a much larger, darker symptom of our generational despair. The exhausted millennial and the billionaire as the ultimate financial savior, if we look closely at the bags under our eyes and the quiet panic attacks endured in office bathroom stalls. The true appeal of the billionaire romance trope reveals itself not as a sexual fantasy, but as a profound financial rescue mission. We are a generation drowning in an ocean of invisible debt, paralyzed by the skyrocketing cost of living, and spiritually crushed by the realization that working 40 hours a week is no longer enough to secure a decent life. The morning alarm clock is a daily reminder of our servitude to a late-stage capitalist system that views us as endlessly replaceable cogs. When we watch these bite-sized dramas, we are not merely fantasizing about a handsome man with a chiseled jawline. We are fantasizing about his Black American Express card. We are projecting our deepest anxieties about rent, student loans, and medical bills onto a fictional savior who can eradicate our suffering with a single swipe of plastic. The billionaire CEO in these vertical videos is the modern equivalent of a fairy godmother, but instead of a pumpkin carriage, he offers the ultimate modern luxury: safety. He represents a permanent escape from the suffocating anxiety of checking a bank account balance. When the male lead aggressively buys out a clothing store just to defend the protagonist's honor, the viewer experiences a visceral, vicarious thrill. It is the catharsis of watching financial power weaponized against the everyday humiliations we endure from arrogant landlords, dismissive bosses, and a society that equates our net worth with our human worth. We have been sold the lie of the meritocracy for so long that we have finally stopped believing in it, turning instead to the sheer, absurd luck of stumbling into the arms of a secret heir. We consume this content voraciously because the real world offers no such safety nets. The fantasy of being plucked from obscurity and gifted an empire allows our exhausted minds to rest, if only for a few fleeting minutes. It is a testament to how deeply tired we are, proving that our ultimate romantic ideal is no longer just someone who understands our soul, but someone who can permanently shield us from the crushing financial brutality of the real world. To capitalize on this profound societal exhaustion, a ruthless new digital architecture had to be engineered to keep us hopelessly addicted. The neurochemical heist and the weaponization of the microdrama format. The platforms that host these narratives are not in the business of storytelling. They are in the business of neurochemical hijacking. Applications like ReelShort and DramaBox have meticulously dissected the human attention span, discarding traditional narrative arcs in favor of a relentless, brutal assault on our dopamine receptors. They understand that when we are tired, vulnerable, and seeking escapism, we do not want a slow burn. We want an immediate, intoxicating hit. This is why every single episode is engineered to last no longer than 60 to 90 seconds. Within this microscopic window, the algorithm demands a high-stakes emotional trigger, a vicious slap across the face, a shocking betrayal, or a sudden, smoldering gaze from the billionaire boss. There is no room for subtlety, character development, or nuance. The pacing is deliberately hyper-accelerated to induce a state of breathless anxiety, forcing your brain to constantly play catch-up with the chaotic visual stimuli flashing across your vertical screen. But the true malice of this psychological manipulation lies in the architecture of the paywall. Just as the tension reaches an absolute boiling point, just as the CEO discovers the truth about the text message, or right before the secret identity is revealed, the screen abruptly halts. A prompt appears, demanding digital coins to unlock the next 60 seconds. This is where the sunk cost fallacy is brilliantly weaponized. You have already invested your time, your emotional energy, and your physiological arousal into this absurd scenario. The platform knows that in this heightened state of suspense, the logical part of your prefrontal cortex is completely suppressed by the primitive, craving centers of your brain. You are no longer making a rational financial decision. You are desperately paying a toll to relieve the psychological itch that the app itself created. It is the exact same behavioral conditioning used in casino slot machines, translated into bite-sized romantic angst. You click, you pay, and you consume, trapped in a seamless loop of artificial scarcity and engineered gratification that empties your wallet while feeding your darkest escapist fantasies. Ultimately, when the final episode concludes and the screen fades to black, we are left staring at the faint reflection of our own weary faces. Conclusion: the reflection in the black mirror and our collective yearning. It is incredibly easy to mock these microdramas. It is simple to look at the exaggerated acting, the ridiculous plot lines, and the predatory monetization models and dismiss the entire phenomenon as lowbrow trash designed for the intellectually lazy. But to do so is to miss a heartbreaking truth about the modern human condition. We do not watch these shows because we are stupid. We watch them because we are profoundly lonely, deeply exhausted, and starving for a sense of significance in a world that constantly reduces us to data points. That late-night text message to the billionaire is not just a cheap plot device. It is a desperate, echoing cry into the void of the universe, a plea to be noticed by someone who has the power to change our lives forever. These vertical screens have become the digital altars where we bring our modern anxieties. We sacrifice our time and our money for a fleeting glimpse of a universe where our mistakes lead to salvation rather than ruin, where our vulnerabilities are cherished rather than exploited, and where we are finally, blissfully safe. The manipulation system works precisely because it targets the very things we lack the most in our waking lives. As long as the real world continues to be a place of relentless pressure, emotional isolation, and financial dread, the shadow-soaked fantasy of the untouchable billionaire will continue to thrive. We will keep downloading the apps, unlocking the episodes, and surrendering to the illusion. In the end, the story of the disastrous text message is not about the billionaire at all. It is a story about us, about our enduring, irrational, and beautifully tragic hope that one day, someone powerful enough to stop the world from spinning will look at our messy, chaotic lives and decide that we are exactly what they have been searching for all along. At its core, our obsession with these billionaire microdramas is a glaring symptom of modern societal burnout. We are a generation paralyzed by financial anxiety, emotional isolation, and the relentless demands of a system that often treats us as disposable. These bite-sized vertical videos offer much more than a cheap romantic thrill. They provide a profound psychological rescue mission. By projecting our deepest insecurities onto a fictional, omnipotent savior, we find a fleeting escape from the crushing weight of reality. The fantasy dictates that our unpolished, chaotic authenticity is our greatest asset, capable of melting the icy exterior of an untouchable elite who can solve our systemic problems with a single swipe of a black credit card. However, this desperate yearning is ruthlessly weaponized against us by predatory digital platforms. Using hyper-accelerated pacing and neurochemical hijacking, these apps exploit our vulnerabilities, trapping us in an endless loop of dopamine hits and microtransactions. We are not just paying for a story, we are paying a toll for temporary emotional relief. Ultimately, these exaggerated narratives serve as a dark mirror, reflecting our collective exhaustion and a beautifully tragic hope that someone with immense power might one day look past our flaws, rescue us from the daily grind, and finally make us feel safe. The profound lesson and application, the deepest lesson hidden beneath this digital escapism, is that true salvation cannot be outsourced to a fantasy. These microdramas exploit our desire to be rescued, but waiting for a mythical savior only prolongs our exhaustion and keeps us trapped in a cycle of passive consumption. Real power lies in reclaiming your agency in the waking world. To apply this to your daily life, start by acknowledging your burnout without judgment. Instead of retreating into artificial, dopamine-driven fantasies when you feel overwhelmed, seek out genuine, unpolished human connections. Share your authentic, chaotic self with real friends or a supportive community, people who value your humanity over your productivity. Establish firm boundaries with your work and digital consumption to protect your mental peace. Stop waiting for a magical rescue and start actively building a life, step by step, from which you no longer desperately need to escape. Join the conversation. Have you ever found yourself mindlessly binge-watching short videos or shows just to escape the stress of a long workday? Please leave a comment below and share your perspective so we can all discuss and learn from each other. If you found this analysis insightful, please hit the subscribe button to support the channel and give us the motivation to create more deep dive content for you.